The train hummed along the tracks, the rhythmic motion almost lulling me into a sense of calm amidst the storm of emotions swirling within me. Today was meant to be a day of mourning, yet the unexpected call shattered the fragile peace I had managed to find. As I reached for my phone upon hearing the familiar ringtone, I noticed it was my dad calling. Confusion gnawed at me as I answered, "Hello?" "Carol, it's Dad." His voice was urgent, tinged with an unusual seriousness. "Dad, what's wrong?" I asked, the concern evident in my voice. "Listen, I need you to wait at the station." "Don't go to Sharon's house alone," he said, his words hanging heavy in the air. "But why?" "I need to be there for Michael and his family," I protested, the knot of worry tightening in my chest. "I know, Carol, but trust me on this. Just wait for me, okay? I'll explain everything when I pick you up," he insisted before ending the call, leaving me with more questions than answers. As the train continued its journey, I couldn't shake the sense of unease that settled over me. What could possibly be so urgent that Dad felt the need to intervene like this? And why did he seem so adamant about me not going to Sharon's house alone? As I sat at the station, waiting for my dad to arrive, my mind was consumed by thoughts of Sharon. She had been more than just a mother-in-law to me. She had been a confidant, a source of comfort, and a dear friend. The sudden realization of her absence weighed heavily on my heart, intensifying the ache of grief that already gripped me. When Dad finally pulled up in his car, I greeted him with a mixture of relief and apprehension. He handed me a sealed envelope, his expression somber as he said, "Sharon left this for me. It's important." I took the envelope from him, my fingers trembling slightly as I broke the seal. Inside, I found a handwritten letter addressed to my dad. As I began to read Sharon's words, my heart constricted with emotion. "Dear Mr. Johnson," the letter began, "I hope this letter finds you well. I'm writing to express a rather unconventional request, but one that weighs heavily on my mind." As I continued to read, Sharon's words revealed her deepest concerns about the potential for conflict and discord among her children in the wake of her passing. She expressed her wish that I not attend her funeral alone, fearing that without Michael by my side, there may be attempts to exploit the situation for personal gain. My hands trembled as I reached the end of the letter, my eyes brimming with tears. Sharon's unwavering love and concern for me, even in her final moments, touched me deeply. But more than that, her words served as a stark reminder of the complexities of family dynamics and the fragility of relationships in times of grief. "Dad," I said, my voice choked with emotion as I looked up at him. "Sharon, she was worried about me. About us. What are we going to do?" Dad's eyes reflected the same mixture of sadness and resolve that I felt. "We'll honor her wishes, Carol," he said firmly. "We'll make sure you're not alone, and we'll do whatever it takes to protect your interests." As we drove towards Sharon's house, I clutched the letter tightly in my hand, drawing strength from Sharon's words and the unwavering support of my dad. Little did I know, this letter would serve as the catalyst for a series of events that would change our family forever. As Dad navigated the familiar streets towards Sharon's house, memories of her flooded my mind like an old, cherished photo album being flipped through. I closed my eyes, allowing myself to be swept away by the tide of nostalgia. I remembered the first time I met Sharon, nervous and uncertain, yet greeted with a warm smile and open arms. From that moment on, she had welcomed me into the family with a kindness and acceptance that I would never forget. "Remember the time Sharon baked us those cookies?" I said, a soft smile tugging at the corners of my lips as I turned to Dad. "She insisted that baking together would be a great way for us to bond." Dad chuckled softly, his eyes twinkling with fondness. "Oh, how could I forget? She was determined to teach you her secret family recipe, even if it meant spending the whole afternoon covered in flour." We shared a moment of quiet reflection, lost in the warmth of our shared memories of Sharon. From the family dinners filled with laughter and chatter to the quiet moments of solace we had shared together, Sharon had left an indelible mark on each of our lives. "And do you remember the time she helped us through that rough patch, Dad?" I said, my voice tinged with gratitude. She was always there for us, offering a listening ear and words of wisdom when we needed it most. Dad nodded solemnly, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. "Sharon had a way of seeing the best in people and bringing out the best in them," he said softly. She was a beacon of light in our lives, and we were lucky to have known her. As we approached Sharon's house, a sense of peace washed over me, knowing that her memory would live on in the stories we shared and the love we held in our hearts. Though she may be gone, her spirit would forever be woven into the fabric of our family's history, guiding us through the trials and triumphs that lay ahead. As we arrived at Sharon's house, a solemn silence hung heavy in the air, punctuated only by the soft hum of the engine as Dad parked the car. Michael was waiting for us on the doorstep, his expression a mix of grief and anticipation as we approached. "Dad, Carol, I'm glad you're here," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion as he embraced us both. "There's something we need to discuss before the funeral begins." Dad nodded gravely, his eyes meeting mine with an unspoken understanding. Without wasting any time, Dad reached into his pocket and pulled out the sealed envelope containing Sharon's letter. "Sharon left this for us," Dad explained, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "It contains her final wishes regarding the funeral arrangements and her concerns about potential conflicts among the family." As Michael listened, his brow furrowed in concern, I felt a knot form in the pit of my stomach. The anticipation of what the letter contained weighed heavily on me, filling me with a sense of dread and apprehension. With trembling hands, Dad broke the seal and unfolded the letter, his eyes scanning the words carefully before he began to read aloud. "My dear family," the letter began, Sharon's elegant handwriting filling the page. "I hope this letter finds you all well. As I prepare to say my final goodbyes, I want to express my deepest wishes for the funeral arrangements and the distribution of my estate." As Dad continued to read, the gravity of Sharon's words became clear. She expressed her desire that I not attend the funeral alone, fearing that without Michael by my side, there may be attempts to exploit the situation for personal gain. The revelation hit me like a ton of bricks, the implications of Sharon's concerns sinking in with each passing word. It was as if she had seen into the heart of our family dynamics and understood the potential for conflict better than any of us could have imagined. "Dad, what are we going to do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper as I struggled to come to terms with the enormity of Sharon's request. Dad's expression was grave as he met my gaze, his eyes reflecting the same mixture of sadness and determination that I felt. "We'll honor her wishes, Carol," he said firmly. "We'll make sure you're not alone, and we'll do whatever it takes to protect your interests." As we prepared to enter Sharon's house, the weight of her words hung heavy in the air, casting a shadow over what was supposed to be a day of mourning. Little did we know, this letter would be the catalyst for a series of events that would change our family forever. Michael had to depart unexpectedly for a brief period, due to urgent business matters. As the funeral service approached, a sense of anticipation hung heavy in the air, mingling with the grief that enveloped us all. Michael's absence weighed heavily on my heart, casting a shadow over what was meant to be a day of remembrance and closure. But just as the solemn tones of the church bells began to ring out, a familiar figure emerged from the crowd, his presence a beacon of hope amidst the sea of sorrow. It was Michael, his expression weary yet determined as he made his way towards us. "Michael," I breathed, relief flooding through me as I rushed to meet him, enveloping him in a tight embrace. "I'm so glad you're here." Michael returned my embrace, his arms wrapping around me protectively as he murmured words of comfort. "I wouldn't miss it for the world, Carol," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "Sharon meant everything to me, and I want to be here to say my final goodbyes." Dad approached us, a look of gratitude shining in his eyes as he clasped Michael's shoulder in a silent gesture of solidarity. "Thank you for coming, Michael," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "Your presence means a great deal to us all." As we made our way into the church, the weight of Sharon's absence hung heavy in the air, yet there was also a sense of unity and strength in knowing that we were facing this together as a family. And as the service began, I couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness, knowing that Sharon's memory would live on in the love and support we shared for one another. Inside the somber walls of the church, the air was thick with emotion as the funeral service drew to a close. Tears were shed, memories were shared, and the weight of our loss hung heavy upon us all. Yet amidst the grief, there was a sense of resolve, a determination to honor Sharon's memory and ensure that her final wishes were carried out. As the congregation began to disperse, my family and I remained behind, gathered in a quiet corner of the church to discuss the contents of Sharon's will. Dad held the envelope containing the document, his hands steady despite the gravity of the situation. "It's time," Dad said, his voice gentle yet firm as he broke the seal and unfolded the pages within. The words on the page seemed to dance before my eyes, each line carrying the weight of Sharon's final wishes. As I read through Sharon's will, a sense of peace washed over me, knowing that her legacy would live on in the bonds of family that she had worked so hard to foster. With bated breath, we listened as the lawyer read aloud the contents of the will, revealing Sharon's final instructions for the distribution of her estate. To my relief, her instructions ensured that each of her children received an equal share, effectively diffusing any potential conflicts that may have arisen. As the lawyer finished reading, a collective sigh of relief swept through the room, mingling with the tears of grief and the whispers of gratitude. For in that moment, we knew that Sharon's memory would live on not just in our hearts, but in the unity and strength of our family. "We did it," Dad said, his voice filled with pride as he turned to me, a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Sharon's final wishes have been honored, and her legacy will continue to guide us in the years to come." I nodded, my heart overflowing with gratitude for the love and support of my family. Though the pain of Sharon's loss would never truly fade, knowing that her memory would live on in the bonds we shared brought a sense of peace amidst the storm. And as we left the church that day, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, united in our love for one another and the memory of the remarkable woman who had brought us all together. In the days that followed Sharon's funeral, our family embarked on a journey of healing and renewal. Though her absence still cast a shadow over our lives, we found solace in the memories we shared and the love that bound us together. As we gathered in Sharon's home to sort through her belongings, the air was heavy with nostalgia and bittersweet reminiscence. Each item we came across held a story, a precious memory of the woman who had touched our lives in so many ways. "It's hard to believe she's gone," Michael said softly, his voice breaking the silence as he carefully packed away a box of Sharon's cherished possessions. "But I know she'll always be with us, in the memories we shared and the love she left behind." I nodded in agreement, my eyes brimming with tears as I reached for a faded photograph of Sharon and me, taken on a sunny afternoon many years ago. In that moment, I felt her presence beside me, her gentle spirit guiding us forward as we navigated the uncertain road ahead. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, life slowly began to return to normal. Though the pain of Sharon's loss still lingered, we found comfort in the knowledge that her final wishes had been honored and her legacy would live on in the bonds of family that she had worked so hard to nurture. "Sharon would be proud of us," Dad said one evening as we gathered around the dinner table, sharing stories and laughter in her honor. "She always believed in the strength of our family, and I know she's watching over us with pride." I smiled through my tears, grateful for the love and support of my family as we faced the future together. Though Sharon may no longer be with us in body, her spirit lived on in the love that surrounded us, guiding us through the challenges and triumphs that lay ahead. And as we toasted to her memory that evening, I knew that no matter what the future held, we would face it with courage, resilience, and the enduring love of a family bound together by the legacy of a remarkable woman named Sharon.